West Ham, meantime, back at the weekend, as is the Premier League. West Ham on Sunday go to Aston Villa. I noticed, Simon, much of your column the other day in the Daily Mail was about West Ham and David Moyes. When doom and gloom is forecast, good managers with the right attitude can overcome significant challenges. And you tell us Moyes very much falls into that category. And of course, when they won the Europa League final over in Prague, it was a great moment for everybody associated with West Ham. And David Sullivan the following morning joined us on the show to spell out what he thought it meant for Moyes and West Ham.
We believed in him. We under a lot of pressure from supporters, press, everyone who seems mad on making changes, but we believe in honouring contracts. David had a contract with us and has a contract with us to next summer. And next summer we look at it again, But until then, as long as he wants to remain the manager, he will remain the manager of West Ham.
And he has done just that. Simon, you tell us in your column, this is Moyes, he's the best thing that's happened to West Ham for a very long time. His current deal expires at the end of the season. And if I was running that club, a new contract for Moyes would be top of my to-do list. It's not often I hear you enthuse so much about someone like that.
Yeah, no, I thought it was important to not keep writing my bile-ridden columns about everyone that I dislike and write about something that I do like. No, in seriousness, I think it's also important to call things for what they are. David Moyes has gone through a period where, after the Manchester United situation, his reputation as a football manager took a significant nosedive. He made bad decisions about going to Real Sociedad. He made bad observations at Sunderland and bad outcomes. And then he went into West Ham, as I say in the article, and he was treated like a disposable razor. He came in, sharpened him up after the debacle of Pellegrini, and then was booted out the door. Yet comes back in, and a year after Pellegrini's made an absolute horlicks of it, spent inordinate amounts of money, burnt David Sullivan's fingers, and David normally sort of rifles through Rothmans to find his players that he buys, but was buying people like Felipe Sanderson for 40 million quid, Anderson, sorry. Then you've got David coming back in, and you look at the 3 seasons or 4 seasons that he's been back. He took him out of a nosedive, then he puts him 6th, then he puts him 7th, then he wins the European competition after being in a European Cup semi-final the previous year.
Yeah,
they've learned the lessons with David of players that they bought. The players they bought last season weren't great. The club's making money. There's a lot about West Ham now that you have to look and say, well, that's a pretty decent football club now. It's punching quite hard. It's got a manager that's now, I think, better equipped. Not suggesting that he could do this, but better equipped to manage Man United in 2023 than he could have been in 2013. So I think all things lead to the stability and solidity and achievements of West Ham, not on his own, but David has been integral in that. So why would you want to change that? There'll be a certain section of the West Ham fan base that maybe doesn't like his style of football and think that there's another manager in the offing that's more progressive in their thinking. But look at what he's done in the last 3.5 years.
I would agree
and he's
you.
only 60 years of age.
And when you get real football people like Stuart Pearce saying the same, like Kevin Nolan saying the same, of course Nolan would say that. He works for them. But as you rightly say, they won the Europa Conference League final. When it looked like his number might be up, Moyes led his team away from the bottom 3 and won a European trophy. How many people can say they did that and that?
Well, if you create enough leagues, eventually, if you create enough European competitions, everyone will be able to say it. But the point is that I was critical of David last year. I thought his number was up. As I said in the article, I bumped into him at a function. And we were at a function talking about resilience, ironically. And I thought David wasn't showing a lot. He was unhappy about the media and their role in potentially getting him the sack, and how media radio stations were inviting phone-ins about whether David Moyes should be sacked. And I said to him, oh, come on, Moyesy. You guys get paid a lot of money. It's the price on the ticket. And yet, from that point on, I thought, as I say in the article, I thought he was a little bit flimsy. He goes on, he stabilises the team, he pulls them out of a nosedive, and goes and wins the European competition. Then you look at this season. Now look at West Ham this season.
Yeah.
And you look at the 4 years that he's been there, and then you look behind the scenes. I make the observation again about the Dithering Dave moniker that was given to him at Manchester United and at Everton because he couldn't alight upon a transfer and make his mind up about it. If it was ever fair, I think you've got a really decent player. You talk to people, and of course Stuart is very often not prepared to say anything bad about anybody. That's Stuart Pearce. But when I spoke to him, I said, "Listen, I know David, but you know him better. What do you define, and what do you say how his key characteristics are?" And he talked about work ethic, endeavour, integrity, decency, motivation.
Yeah.
So I just thought it was to look at West Ham. I'm often facetious about David Sullivan for good reason. There's often a lot of vitriol around West Ham. There's been a lot of disdain over the years about the move from Upton Park to the taxpayer stadium and all that goes with it. And you have to call this for what it is. This is arguably, no, it's factually, the most successful period in West Ham's Premier League history. It's the first trophy they've won since 1980 when they were in the second division.
Yeah.
They've got a football club last year that had a £250 million turnover, made £11 million worth of profit. They've got a guy in there that spent £150 million to buy 20% of it. They've sold a player for £105 million and seem to have improved the side. You have to call things for what they are.
Good point. I mean, this weekend we'll find out really where they're at as well as they return, and Moyes takes them to Villa, where it's David Moyes up against, of course, Unai Emery, and we'll find out more about where West Ham United might be.
He needs to be there's a lot of noise about Newcastle for obvious reasons, and Aston Villa and Brighton. West Ham currently should be in that conversation.
Jim White and Simon Jordan. Monday to Friday mornings from 10 on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.